All right, everybody, welcome to the webinar. I'm going to give people just a couple 10 seconds or so to jump on before I jump into the next slide here. But just want to say hi, how's everyone doing? I'd like to welcome you to today's presentation. As you can see, the title of today's presentation is 5 Simple Shifts for Rapid Weight Loss and How to Keep It Off Long Term. So it's really great to have you here. For those of you who might have done webinars before in the past, a lot of times a presenter might start out with a lot of fluff in the beginning. I don't like that. I want to be respectful of your time and mine, so I want to jump right in today because I've got some fantastic content for you today. So starting off, I want to go over real quick who this webinar is for. So this webinar is for regular people who are sick of being overweight, right? Maybe you've tried multiple times in different programs in the past and you keep gaining weight back, or maybe this is the first thing that you've ever really looked into, but really, what it comes down to is that if you are unhappy with your weight, if you are unhappy with how you feel because of your extra body fat, or if you're just ready to improve your health through rapid weight loss, then you will get a ton of valuable information out of this entire webinar. And this webinar is made exactly and specifically for you. So make sure that you stay till the end because I go through a lot of information here. Pay very close attention because this is going to be some of the best 40 minutes you've ever spent on improving your health. Okay, so over the next 40 minutes, this is what we're going to be covering. How to effortlessly and effectively drop unwanted weight without having to spend hours at the gym, right? And this is important because a lot of people don't like to go to the gym when they're overweight. They feel like they're being stared at. They feel like they're being judged, and that sucks. In order to get healthy, you don't have to do that. So next, we're going to go over how to fuel your body in the right way, even if you don't know the first thing about healthy nutrition. We're going to cover how to leverage a unique plan designed specifically for you without getting overwhelmed by all the conflicting information out there, right? One of the biggest challenges that a lot of people have is that there's so many different resources and places of information that they can go when they're seeking help on losing weight, and it can be very, very daunting and overburden them with how much information is out there and what's the right information. We're going to cover how to jumpstart your metabolism and get everything into a roaring inferno that burns calories while you sleep, even if you've been stuck at the same weight for years. Right? A lot of times people have this belief that I've been at this weight for so long and so I'm never going to be able to lose it. And that is just completely untrue. We're going to cover how to build an amazing body and rebuild your self-confidence that will cause others to look and stare in attraction. Right? And maybe you are with somebody already. Maybe that other person that you want to look and stare at attraction is your spouse or your significant other. There's nothing wrong with that. And rebuilding self-confidence is definitely one of the things that helping lose weight will help that process out quite a bit. Next, we're going to cover how to maintain an amazing body for the rest of your life, even if every time in the past that you've tried to lose the weight, you've gained it back. But I'd like to make another promise to you for this webinar here, on top of these things that we're going to be covering here. And this is my promise to you. My promise to you is that I'll be going over and revealing the exact step-by-step system that you need in order to lose weight and keep it off without having to waste all of your free time at the gym, right? Nobody likes that. It's not a fun thing to do. So when we go through this, I always want to cover just a couple house rules real quickly, just before we get into the good stuff. First thing with the house rules and foremost, these changes that we're going to be going over come from significant changes to the individual's diet and lifestyle, right? You're not going to act the same and eat the same and get completely different results. There's no such thing as magic pills that creates any type of significant weight loss, right? I am not stating that this is going to be anything like that those don't exist. Secondly, I am not your doctor, right? At the moment, I'm not your doctor. All of the information in this webinar is considered for educational use only, and you should consult with your licensed healthcare provider before starting any weight loss program. For those of you who are taking any medications, make sure that you consult your physician before changing your medications in any way. Once again, I am not your doctor. I'm going through this process here as educational use only. So before we get into the good stuff here, I would like to kind of review something here. Does any of this sound like you? Do you hate being judged at your job for your size and your weight and not for the quality of the work that you do? Have you been recently diagnosed with a health condition, or are you on the path of worsening health? Do you know that the path that you are on right now will lead to major health trauma and problems? Are you worried that you will have the same fate as your parents because of being over fat? There's a lot of diseases and conditions out there that get passed down from generation to generation. Have you been thinking about losing weight for a while and you're ready now to make a change? Right? Have you tried multiple programs in the past only to gain it back? This is super frustrating thing for a lot of people, is that they go through the classic yo-yo dieting. They lose weight and they gain it back, and they lose weight and they gain it back. Do you feel sick and exhausted all the time? And do you wish that you could be more active with your friends and family? Being tired all the time definitely happens when you're carrying around an extra 20, 30, 60, 80, 100 pounds, right? That's a lot of weight to be carrying around, and it takes a lot of energy to be able to maintain that. Are you embarrassed to go out in public or social situations because of your size? Do you feel like your confidence has decreased because of it? That's something that's very common. People get embarrassed and ashamed. Has your intimacy with your spouse suffered because of your self-confidence or your love life? Maybe you don't have a spouse, but it's more of the dating aspect of it, right? Are you sick of being single and want to lose weight to attract a good quality, good looking partner? Do you feel ashamed to go to the normal store to buy clothes because you can't fit in them, right? You got to go to specialty stores. Are your friends or are your family ashamed of you because of your size? This happens. It's not the ideal thing to go through, and it definitely sucks when it's people that you care about and love, but this is a very common thing, is that they might feel ashamed for you, or they might be embarrassed for you because of your size, right? Or is it difficult or almost impossible to travel because you can't fit into airplane seats? This is something that happens, right? There's a lot of people that like to go to different places, but if they can't get in those seats for 3-4 hours and it's incredibly uncomfortable, that's no fun. Or lastly, this is one of the biggest things that happens. Do you hate the way that having the extra body weight, the body fat, makes you feel? Right? The way that it makes you feel about yourself, the way that it makes you feel around others, the way that it makes you feel with your energy, with your self-confidence. If any of that sounds like you, then this is the thing I got great news. None of those things are the real problem, right? Those are just the symptoms. Okay. The real problem is that you haven't made what I call the shifts yet. With the shifts, the thing that's really cool is that when you make these shifts, they're incredibly important for rapid weight loss. And like I said, we'll get into that real quick. I just want to introduce myself before we go any further. My name is Dr. Erik Carlson. I am a licensed chiropractic physician in the state of Minnesota. I've been practicing for 10 years. The last 4 years in a row, 2017, 18, 19, and 20, I've been voted one of Minnesota's best chiropractors by Minnesota Monthly Magazine. I have specialized in weight loss for the last 5 years. And most importantly, through that process of specialization in the weight loss, I've been able to help hundreds of both men and women lose thousands of pounds. And that's one of the things that I'm actually most excited about doing when it comes to my role as a healthcare provider. So when we're discovering the 5 shifts, like I said, I've been specializing in weight loss for over 4 years, and I've helped hundreds of people lose thousands of pounds. And going through that process over time and time again, I started to realize that there is a huge difference between 2 very different groups of people. All right. Some of my clients, when they go through the weight loss process, they lose weight incredibly quickly, right? They have very little issues making changes to their lifestyles, the foods they eat, their activity levels. When these people make changes, there's massive change with minimal effort, right? The best story goes along with them. Then there's the clients that will have huge challenges and struggles, and they will barely lose anything, right? These are the people that might have spent hundreds or even thousands of dollars on personal trainers or monthly meal programs or protein shake programs, or maybe they're just a busy professional who doesn't have a lot of time to spend at the gym, right? And so they'll throw tons of money at this weight issue time and time again, at their problem, and there's still very little change, right? So what I decided to do, and as I was going through this process and consistently trying to reevaluate my program, is that I wanted to be hyper focused on what the men and women who had amazing results were doing differently than the people who were struggling to lose the weight, right? So how was it that you've got two different groups of people that follow the same program that have completely different outcomes? And so over time, I came to the discovery that there's really 5 specific traits, 5 specific things that the successful clients, the rock stars, were doing that the people who were struggling with the program were not doing. And so over time, I came up with the list of the specific things that the rock star did, and I decided to incorporate those shifts throughout this talk here. So prior to me implementing those shifts, clients on average would lose anywhere from 5 to 10 pounds for every 6 weeks, right? And it's, yeah, you're still losing a little bit of weight, but it's definitely not amazing. It's not jaw-dropping, right? So once I started to implement the shifts into the program, clients on average are losing 20 pounds in that first 6 weeks, but have some that are 25, 30, we've had 2 different guys that have lost 40 pounds in 6 weeks, right? There's a huge change in results. And so as they're going through this process, the bottom line is that there are 5 key shifts that you have to make in order to not only lose the weight rapidly, but more importantly, keep it off long term. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through all 5 of those now. And so here's the first shift with this. Okay, the first shift here is taking personal responsibility. This is a huge one, right? So I know that this seems like a fluffy thing to say. However, this is incredibly important, because without taking personal responsibility with where you are at right now, you can never move forward. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So when you're looking at taking responsibility, this means that you are not blaming others or situations for where you are at right now, right? And I want to, I use an example of this every once in a while. I don't like to use this right now. It's just a little story. And so the story goes like this, right? There's a fisherman that's heading home after a long day. And on his way home, he sees another boat that's approaching his own, right? It's getting closer and closer to him. And the fisherman starts to worry. So he starts waving his hands in the air, right? He's trying to get the other boat's attention, but nothing happens. Eventually, the fisherman yells out, "Get out of the way, right? We're going to crash. You're going to hit my boat." But the other boat just continues right along the path without changing. And eventually, the 2 boats collide into each other, right? This obviously upsets the fisherman quite a bit, and he starts to yell at the fisherman in the other vessel, in the other boat, but he realizes that there's nobody there, right? He bumped into an empty boat. And so upon figuring this out, he became even more upset, because now he knows that he has no one to blame but himself for the accident. And the moral of the story here is that life is filled with empty boats that come at us all the time. And if we rely on the oncoming boat to change direction so that we don't hit it, we will continue to keep crashing. We will continue to keep running into these same problems over and over again. And so it's our responsibility to adapt and change to our surroundings in order to reach our destination or our goal as easily as possible, right? So that's the first one. The next one here is no complaining about your current situation, right? There's some people here that when they complain, their whole purpose of complaining or whining is to get sympathy from others. And ultimately, the challenge that this comes into play, or the process, is that this allows people to tell their stories that I'm here, but it's not my fault. And so I want sympathy from you. But realistically, if people give you sympathy for the situation that you're at, that decreases your willingness or your desire to change your situation, right? So when people tell me their stories or their sob stories, it's like, well, I feel sorry for you, but ultimately I don't really care, because that has nothing to do with your choices that you're going to make going forward, right? So that's super important, because if you don't take personal responsibility, or if you start complaining about where you're at, what this does is that this puts you in a victim mentality, right? And when you're a victim, that means you can't change your surroundings. That means you can't change your outcomes. And so it takes away your ability to make real changes. All right, so let's look at someone who was doing this. So Daryl was an example of this. He'd been going through a lot of the yo-yo dieting process, right? He loses weight, he gain it back, he loses weight, he gains it back. And Daryl would keep blaming this yo-yo process behavior on different events or different situations that he was going through, right? Sometimes it was because the program didn't fit into his lifestyles, or other times it was because he was big boned, or another reason that work is stressful or the holidays are tough. It's like, well, these are things that happen on a regular basis. So you have to learn that you have to start taking responsibility because you know that the holidays are coming up. Right, so Daryl was going through this yo-yo dieting process, and really what it does is it's just excuses and blames as far as what he was going through. So when Daryl finally started to take personal responsibility for his choices that he had made, and his choices, more importantly, that he was going to start making in the future, he was able to lose a lot of weight very quickly. But more importantly, it's been more than 6 months since Daryl lost his initial 30 pounds, and he's actually still continued to lose just a little bit more weight than what he did when he initially started the program here. Right? And he was able to do this because he finally started taking personal responsibility for his health. And so, like I said, he was able to lose even more weight since he lost his initial weight through that process. The next shift is super important as well. The next shift is this: it's setting higher standards for yourself, right? If you want to achieve a healthy body that's not overweight, you have to raise your standards from where they're currently at, right? If your standards are low, then things that you might be saying to yourself will match your low standards. So it might be things like, it's okay for me to be struggling to breathe when I walk up and down the stairs. Or, those were a lot of stairs. It's okay for me to be struggling with that. Or, I'm okay with being single. It's not that bad. Or, I'm only on one medication for my blood pressure where, Jan is on 4. So it's not good for me, but it really sucks to be Jan, right? And so you're allowing those lower standards. And, or what's another one here? All right, well, here's one. So even though I really dislike I hate the way that this excess body fat makes me feel every day, it's not that bad. And so I don't want to continually change my habits to be healthier, right? So these are all just things that show that people have set lower standards for themselves. And by being okay with a crappy situation, it doesn't force change. But what it does, it actually causes the bad behavior to continue. So I'm not saying this with the intent that you have to be perfect, right? But I am sure that, well, let's look at it this way. Let's say, let me go through a description of 2 different people, and you tell me, or you think about which person is going to be the overweight person and which person is going to be the healthy person, right? So let's try it this way. Let's look at woman number 1, all right? So let's say that as she's going through her nightly routine, she makes sure that she gets to bed at a regular time every night so that she gets her 8 hours of sleep. And so when she wakes up, she leaves enough time to make sure that she can pack a lunch for herself every day when she goes to work. While she's at work, she limits the number of snacks that she has for the week to 2 snacks. After work, most of the time she goes home in order to make herself a dinner or make her family dinner. Maybe there's a couple times a month where she'll go out and have some wine or some drinks with friends after, but for the most part, she goes home. She does go out to different events a couple times a month, but when she does, she has a large meal before going out in order to make sure that she doesn't eat junk food while she's at the event. All right, so this is person number 1, woman number 1. Now we'll look at woman number 2. Woman number 2 stays up really late, gets really poor quality of sleep. Because of this, she's always tired when she wakes up in the morning, so she tries to sleep in. Because she sleeps in, she doesn't ever pack her lunch because she has to rush out of the door. Excuse me. She goes out for fast food every day for lunch because of this. After work, she gets a drink with her friends on most days. On the weekend, she tends to sleep in all the time because she's exhausting. She'll go out to an event a couple times a month, but when she does, she approaches it as a time to eat and or drink whatever she wants to because, well, it only happens a couple times a month, so I can do this and kind of splurge when I do it. So which woman out of the 2 do you think has higher standards? Right? Woman number 1, obviously, when it comes to her health. Which woman do you think will be healthier? right? Obviously, again, this is woman number one. And so when we're looking at standards, standards are important, but there's really only two reasons why you might not be setting higher standards for yourself. The first reason is this, is that you don't believe that you will have the willpower to continue with that act, okay, of setting yourself those higher standards. Number two is that you don't believe you'll see it through till the end. And the reason why these two are important is because when you have all the tools that you need and you really know how your body loses weight, you have a specific path designed for you, it becomes so much easier for you able to not only see your desired outcome, but to also make sure that you continue to have those high standards for yourself. Right, so the next shift is this here, right, for when it comes to weight loss. The secret weapon is this, it's genetic testing. Right now, why would this be the secret weapon? So first off, I want you to think about it like this. What was the old way of losing weight? What are the ways that everybody says will help you lose weight, but really they don't work? Or if they work only for just a few people, right? So what's the old way? One is looking at recommendations like based off the FDA, which says carbs should be 50% or more of your diet, right? Or maybe you're supposed to, as you're going throughout the day, you're supposed to graze throughout the day. You should always be eating something. You want to make sure that you're avoiding fats at all costs. Fats are bad for you. Right? These are the old ways of supposedly being able to lose weight. Avoiding all carbs, no carbs. Here's one that I always kind of get a kick at, is that in order to lose weight, you have to exercise, and you have to exercise a ton. Right? That's one that is definitely a fallacy when it comes to losing weight. Or, there's the one of you got to get your 10,000 steps in order to be healthy. Or here's one that I think is a great myth to losing weight, is that you should only lose 1 to 2 pounds per week of weight. This is one that is like I said, when you're doing it with a process that works under good supervision, this is a complete myth. Or the other one that I've had a lot of clients tell me, and this is one of the most frustrating things for people to go through, especially if they're going to a doctor that's telling them, just eat less. You got to start eating less and exercise more, and it's that simple, and your weight falls off, right? That is not the way that it works. That is not the way that works. There are people that are only, that are eating almost nothing, and their weight doesn't budge, right? This concept of calories in, calories out is a huge fallacy when it comes to the old way of losing weight. But here's the thing, right? All of these methods, these are hope and pray methods, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so if that's the old way, what's the new way? So here's the new way. The new way is that you want to start out by getting your DNA tested, right? Why is this important? Because when you know what your DNA says about your body specifically, there's two things. Is that one is that information is never going to change, right? Your DNA doesn't change as you get older or as you get younger. Your DNA is the same, whether you're 25 or 65 or 95, right? So once you get that genetic clarity, that allows you to create a plan based around your genetics so that you are able to maintain a healthy weight for the rest of your life. That is a super cool process. And then once you've got your plan, that's where you're able to start seeing this rapid weight loss process, because really, it really is that simple. I don't have to do anything to oversimplify this because it's a very simple process, right? So it's important to figure this out, right? Because, maybe you need a diet that's high in fat, or maybe your diet should be high in protein, or maybe your diet should be high in carbs. But if you don't know that, you have to play this guessing game, and that can be very challenging and very frustrating. The other thing is that Sanford did a study, and the study showed that when there's programs that are based upon a person's genetics, this creates 2 times more weight loss than programs that aren't. And so when it's not based on genetics, what you're doing is that you're really bound to gain the weight back. Or the other thing is that if you're following a program that's not based on you, you're going to be struggling. You're going to be struggling going through that process of maintaining and losing and maintaining a healthy weight day in and day out. It's not a fun thing, right? This is why, if you don't do a program that's based around your DNA, it can be very challenging. So let's look at another case study here. So Dan was a student athlete. when he was in high school. And so he spent a lot of time being active when he was younger, but he's obviously not a spring chicken anymore. He pretty much stopped working out in his mid-50s, and over time he ended up gaining, some 60 pounds of unwanted body fat. And so because Dan, when he was younger, liked to work out, he decided that he wanted to join a kickboxing program to help him lose the weight, right? And so this is a program that's 4 days a week. It's super intense. It's, as he's going through it, it's very high intensity. As he was going through that process of doing, different types of kickboxing, weight training, cardio, after 2 months, he had only lost about 4 pounds, right? It's a ton of work, and his ultimate goal of trying to cut body fat, 4 pounds is like nothing, right? And so he had no idea what he was doing wrong, and with all the increased effort and exercise, why he wasn't losing the weight. And then Dan decided to use our program that uses DNA, like I said, as we're going through that process, to find a great long-term path for him to follow. So not only did Dan have rapid weight loss, right? And so not only did he have his rapid weight loss, he lost 24 pounds in his first 30 days on the program. He actually, during his first 6 weeks on the program, it was closer to 30 pounds, right? That's amazing. And the best part of all through this process is that he didn't have to exercise at all, right? This is crazy, and this is super important because when he was going through this process, because the program was based upon his genetics, we were able to figure out what ratio of foods work for him, what types of foods work best for him, and then all of a sudden the weight just starts melting off, right? Without all that intense exercise and activity that goes along with it. The next shift here as we're going through this process is this: it's leveraging failure, right? So what does this mean, and why is this important to leverage your failure? So there's been let me back up here. As we're going through this process, we know, I know, and I'm sure all of you know that losing weight can be challenging. And if you expect to be perfect throughout this entire process of losing weight and keeping it off long term, I'm here to tell you it's not going to happen. And that is one of the easiest ways to derail yourself if you are expecting that over the next week, the next month, the next year, I'm going to be so dedicated that I'm not going to make any mistakes on this program at all, or whatever you're trying to do. That is a surefire way to fail this process. And so it's important to understand that as you're going through this process, it's important to know how to leverage your failure. And this is important because there are studies that have come out recently that show that we have actually a limited amount of willpower. And so what happens is that when you're trying to resist some type of temptation, right, your willpower supply will slowly start to decrease and drain. And over days or weeks, this willpower will eventually drop to zero. And once we run out of willpower, not only does this affect the new habits that you're trying to change, but this also causes you to give into other temptations as well, right? So this is a very challenging part, and this is one of the things that happens when people try to continually resist their temptations that they have, right? A lot of people run into this problem. This is a classic case where someone will lose weight and eventually their willpower drains to zero, and because they don't know how to leverage their failures when it does, not only do they gain the weight back that they lost, but they actually might even gain more weight on top of where they were before they lost the weight initially, right? This is a vicious cycle, and it happens over and over again, and it happens when people are not able to leverage their failure. So like I said, it leads to the same problem over and over again, right? So what do we do? How do we figure this out? How do we leverage short-term problems so that we can create long-term solutions? And one of the things is that it's important to know what your faults are, right? And what I mean by that is that you can change your surroundings. If you can change your surroundings for situations that you're going to that be challenged by you, if you can work on those situations, those environments, that gives you a much greater outcome of what's going to happen, right? So let me give you another example here. So Kathy was someone that had a huge craving for sweets, right? And this in and of itself really isn't a big deal, but the way that Kathy was reacting to it was super destructive, and it led to a pretty large weight gain. And so often, what would happen is that when Kathy would go shopping, she would get a bag of candy, not for her because she's trying to watch her weight, but it's for her spouse, right? Because he'd like to have a candy dish on the counter. And every time that Kathy would walk by that candy dish, she would have to use her willpower to resist the act of eating a piece of candy. And so starting out, she'd do great, right? She would think that, oh, this is a simple process. There's no big deal. I can just leave that candy dish out there and I'll just ignore it when I walk by it, right? So maybe a few days later, she finally breaks down and she has one piece of candy. Oops, it's not that big of a deal. It's just one piece of candy. But, she can try to work through it. And the next day, it happens again. Another piece of candy. Shoot. All right, well, you know what? It's fine. I'll just work through it. Next day, it happens again. Not only just happens once, but it happens 2 times when she walks by it, right? And so this process happens over and over again. And eventually it gets to the point where, the candy dish is just only, maybe there's a couple 5 pieces, 6 pieces of candy of some M&Ms left, and she just takes the whole dish, right? It's just a couple left. It's no issue. I'll just take the rest of it, right? And so eventually this starts to break down and her habit just completely starts to get derailed, right? And so not only that does she grab that, but she's like, you know what, crap, I've already messed up for the day. I might as well just go get this bag of chips, right? And then so she polishes off a bag of chips on top of that, right? And so as we were going through these challenges, this inability to leverage her failure, and as we were going through the process, we were really able to teach Kathy how to leverage her environment, her failures, her challenges, so that she'd stop running into this problem over and over again and stop wearing away all that very limited supply of willpower that we have. And so by the end, through this process, she was able to stick through the program. And because of that, she lost 24 pounds in her first 6 weeks. But more importantly, over the process of her time on the program, she was able to lose almost 41 pounds on the program, right? And you can tell by the picture, it's amazing. She did an amazing job. The last and the most important shift is this. It's investing in coaching, right? Investing in coaching is super important because if losing weight on your own was easy, everybody would do it, right? There would be way less people in the U.S. that are overweight, right? U.S. has the highest obesity and overweight population in the world, right? Yay, go number 1, U.S., right? We're number 1, 71.6% of the population is overweight, and almost 40% of the population is actually clinically obese. So as we're going through this, we know that losing weight on your own doesn't work. Otherwise, it would be easy, right? The other concept of this is that, what the number 1 New Year's resolution is, right? It's lose weight, get healthy. 80% of the people will give up on the New Year's resolution goals within the first month, right? That's crazy. This is our health. This is our most important and valuable part of our life that we give up on after a month of trying to change our own behaviors. And why do we do this? We do this because it's challenging to do it by yourself. It sucks. It's hard. People feel that they can go through the steps on their own, but because we kind of talked about the information, there's so much information out there, they get overwhelmed. They don't know what will work. They try to read more and more, or maybe they try to do it the way of, I'm just going to try to save a buck. Right? And so they think that by doing it themselves, they'll save more money. And so what happens is that, they've either tried to do lots of different mashed up processes on their own, or they've gone to the gym and they've tried to work out on their own and that doesn't work. And they try to do, I heard about keto for a little bit. They try to do that on their own and none of these things work. And so what happens is that they just end up wasting time. They get frustrated. And then over time, they just give up on it. And that's what happens. And because if you have no idea which way to go as you're going through this process on your own, it's going to be very challenging. And so when you create your own path, there's lots of snags, roadblocks, challenges, all these things that you're unaware of. And on top of that, when you're going through this process and you're alone, There's no one there to help you if you fall, right? There's no one there to keep you accountable, and there's no one there to cheer you on when you break through difficult times, right? You break through those different milestones. You want to have that support, that person in your corner. And so it can get pretty lonely out there when you're doing this by yourself. And so people who are honestly and sincerely committed to their own success are going to invest in coaching, right? You see that when you have a coach in your corner, they can help you with so much of the journey. They know where the common roadblocks are. They know that how to help you, how to keep you accountable, and they will be there to celebrate you when you reach the end, right? And so people who are committed to seeing success with their problems are going to invest in coaching, right? And so this is important as we're going through this process, because with coaching, there comes two very important things that you need for success. The coach has knowledge and they have experience, right? They've either personally taken this path on their own, or they have helped many other people down this path. And so what happens is that over time, the coach gets better and learns more and more, so that the next student can go through that process even easier than the one before. Or if you've got students that have the same issues, the coach gets better at being able to help you work through them, because this is not the first time they've seen this problem, right? But the important thing to realize as you look at the coach component of it is that they don't do the work for you, right? They use their experience and their knowledge of being able to lose the weight, but what happens is that you need to combine that with your action. And the process that is really cool with that is that when you have a coach that is knowledgeable and has helped other people go through the same thing that you want to achieve, and you take the action steps that you need, that means that you will get exactly the goals and the process and the results that you want. And when we're looking at losing weight, that means a process that leads to rapid weight loss, right? So let's go over another situation where this was the case. So prior to starting the Twin Cities Weight Loss Program, Jessica told me that she'd tried what seemed like every self-guided program under the sun, right, for the past, I think it was like 3 to 5 years, where she was really struggling with her weight. So she did some high protein diets. She'd read books about 30-day programs that she went through. She'd go through intensive self-directed workouts. She'd look at a bunch of YouTube stuff out there. She'd read article after article. She'd ask friends for advice, right? Basically, if it was something that she could do alone, she tried it. One of the other reasons why she wanted to do that process is because she was trying to save money along the way, right? She wanted to save money, and I understand this process, but what happened is that as she was going through this, because her intention was trying to save money and she wanted to figure this out on her own, she wasted years and years of time and opportunity, and not to mention years of this negative body weight that plays major roles on her overall health, right? And so during that year's process of trying this out on her own, so not only did she not lose any weight, but she actually ended up gaining more. Over that time period, she lost the year, she gained more weight because she wasn't knowing what she was doing, and that comes with a lot of those challenges of not being healthy. So as she was going through the program here, she had lost more weight on the first week of our program than she had in the previous 5 years, right? And so eventually what she started to do as she continued to go through that process of losing weight, fast forward another 6 weeks, she lost over 32 pounds on the program, right? And she did it very quickly. And she did it, once she figured out what would work for her, because she had a coach that had helped other people go through this process again. It was a very simple process to go through it. So those are the 5 shifts, okay? They are super important. The last thing I want to do real quick here is just to give you a recap of really what we went over today, right? So we went over how to effortlessly drop unwanted weight effectively without spending time at the gym and hours of uncomfortable exercise, getting these stares from people, how to fuel your body in the right way, even if you don't know the first thing about healthy eating. Covered how to leverage a unique plan that's designed specifically for you without getting overwhelmed by all the conflicting information out there, how to jumpstart your metabolism and get into a roaring inferno that burns calories while you sleep, right? How to build an amazing body and rebuild your self-confidence that will cause the people to look and stare in attraction. How to maintain an amazing body for the rest of your life, even if every time you've tried in the past, you've gained it back, right? But today I gave you the outline for exactly how you need to shift in order to achieve amazing weight loss results, right? These are the things that you need to win with weight loss, right? Just recapping here, taking personal responsibility, right? This isn't about blaming others or playing the victim. It's about taking ownership of where you are at and the choices that you're going to make, or the choices that you're making going forward. Second one is setting higher standards for yourself, making sure that you are no longer accepting your current situation. You are ready for change. You are ready for change now, and setting the bar high enough to make sure that you don't ever want to go back to where you were. Right? Using the secret weapon of genetic testing, this allows you to find a program that is designed specifically for you. And the benefit of this is that you will never have to find another program in the future because your body, your genes will never change, right? Next one was leveraging your failures. How do you act in times that don't go as planned can play a huge role in your success. And the last one here that you need in order to win and in order to lose the weight is investing in coaching, right? It's super important to have someone that can support you, that knows about the challenges and difficulties of losing weight, and more importantly, how to keep it off and to support you and keep you accountable through that process. See, because when you go through all 5 of these shifts, you have everything that you'll need to create a rapid weight loss process. But ultimately, what it is that now is the time to decide what you want to do about all the information that we just went over. Right? See, because now you have a choice. If you are sick of not liking the way that you feel about having that extra weight, if you are sick and you want to start losing that weight at an incredibly quick pace, if you want to regain your confidence and feel amazing about yourself when you enter a room or go into public, if you want people to stop judging you because of your size and because of the way you look, if you want to have the energy of a young adult again, if you want to be around for your kids or your grandkids to experience their life experiences, and if you want to dramatically improve your health, extend the length, and most importantly, the quality of your life, if you want that, then here's what I have for you. I've set aside some time in the next 48 hours to speak with you personally about how you can apply these ideas to your life starting today, right? And whatever your biggest challenges are, I've seen it, right? I've worked with hundreds of people. You're very, very unlikely situation that your challenges are going to be different than somebody else's challenges that I've been able to help through in the past, right? I've seen it. I know how to overcome it. We'll get on the phone, and for about 45 minutes, I'll work with you to craft a step-by-step game plan to create a rapid weight loss program just for you. And I'll show you the tools that you need to keep the weight off long term, right? And here's the best thing about this is that this is absolutely free, okay? But here's the catch. Here's the catch with this, is that this call is not for everyone. This call is specifically for a couple people, right? The first quality or thing that this person needs, that this call is for, is that you got to be coachable and you got to be willing to learn and implement new things, right? I know that there are a lot of people out there who have tried other programs in the past, and when people start taking, this thing from one program and that from another program and another piece from this different program, it just doesn't work, right? You've got to be coachable and willing to and implement these new things, right? Next, you must take responsibility for your actions. I can't help you if you're not willing to take responsibility for your actions. You must be willing to leave the old ideas and habits in the past. You got to come with an empty cup so that I can teach you these new things. You must be ready to change your life no matter what it takes, right? Making different choices isn't always the easiest thing to do, and there will be challenges along the way. And I know how to help people through them, but ultimately you have to take the action on it, right? And you got to be dedicated no matter what. If that's you, you need to book your session with me right now, right? So this is why I'm doing this. A lot of times people ask me, why am I doing this? Well, here's why. I do this because I love giving back. I love helping individuals lose weight, get healthy, feel amazing, and regain their confidence. I love seeing amazing before and after pictures, right? It is so cool to play a role in our clients' health to help them improve their lives in such a massive way. Plus, here's the thing. I know that you might want to transform your life right now, and if so, we can discuss that and what we do in the call to see if it's a good fit. If it's a good fit for you, if it's a good fit for me, If not, that's okay too, right? You still lead the process as you're going through this with a solid game plan, right? So here's the thing. Somewhere on the screen here, or maybe if you're on your mobile phone, you might have to scroll down a little bit, but there is a button, and when you click that button, you'll be taken to our calendar page. Go there, select whatever time works best for you. After that, you'll be taken to a short application, just more of a questionnaire, so that I can kind of see where you're starting from, what challenges you might have had in the past, right? And by me having that information, it just makes the call more efficient, more effective, because that's just some of the stuff that I need to know for the call. Super quick though, just fill it in quickly, jump on a call for the appointment time that you've picked, and honestly, it is going to be some of the best time you've ever spent with working on yourself. So before I go, I want to just read a real quick review by Jeff, who had gone through our program in the past. Jeff said this about the program, that being overweight has always been part of my life. I have looked for answers, but came up short until I met Dr. Carlson and the Twin Cities Weight Loss Program. His approach is very simple, and it comes with a lot of support. Not a lot of fancy talk and food programs, but a simple education about how your body works. His approach was exactly what I was looking for, and because of that, right now I am down 34 pounds and expect to lose another 25 pounds here very soon. He's changed my life for the better, and he can do the same for you, right? So if you'd like to see how I can help, book a call. I'll show you what that will look like, and we'll go from there.